Hello, saludos everyone. This is Attorney John Redmann. It's my privilege today to have Judge Marilyn Castle with us in this interview. She is a district court judge. She is joining us in this interview today to discuss her candidacy for the Louisiana Supreme Court, the highest court in Louisiana. And Judge Castle, thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure. Now, this conversation, this interview, is going to reach many Hispanics all over Louisiana, including in your district, the district that is allowed to vote for your seat, the seat you are seeking for the Louisiana Supreme Court. So many people are going to be out voting because it's a presidential election. There are many other judicial seats and Senate seats up for election. Some people think, or they may think, that judicial elections are not so important. Why don't you explain why that might not be a smart idea?
Well, all judicial elections are important, but the election for Louisiana Supreme Court is of utmost importance because there are only 7 members of the Louisiana Supreme Court, which means it only takes 4 justices to render a decision. So each person that is entrusted with that authority and power needs to be someone that the people feel that they can trust. Every decision that's made by the Supreme Court will directly affect lives of people in this state, whether it's their families or their jobs or their future. And in addition to that, one of the important roles of the Supreme Court is to regulate lawyers and judges. And so it's important that the Supreme Court be very active in making sure that people are not taken advantage of, that lawyers act in an honest way toward their clients, and that people are protected in that way. So it's an important position, and it's one that everyone should be concerned about.
Okay. So is the Supreme Court, as the highest appellate court, is that court different from the intermediate appellate court or the court that you currently reside on, the district court?
Well, every case that gets to the Louisiana Supreme Court, other than discipline cases, originated in a district court. We are the only trial courts in the state of Louisiana, which means this is where people come for their justice. And having spent 18 years as a district court judge, I fully understand what people go through when they are in the court system. I see them eye to eye every day. And I think it's important that whoever is placed on the Supreme Court have a complete and full appreciation of what's happening in the district courts and what people are going through in the district courts. You know, an appellate court only reads a cold record and a transcript. But understanding the human problems, understanding the human tragedies behind much of what we hear is vitally important. So I feel that my 18 years as a district court judge really places me in a position to understand people's problems and understand what their cases are about beyond just what that code record says. On top of that, before I became a district judge, I handled over 100 cases before the Louisiana Supreme Court. So I'm well aware of appellate practices and procedures and the necessity of having a complete record in order to make a good and valid decision about what a lower court may have done.
Okay. Next question has to do with the perception that the community, in particular readers and viewers, on the topic of whether or not people feel like they can get a fair shake in our legal system. What do you have to say to individuals who wonder and worry if the system is still fair anymore? What about people who are minorities? What about Hispanics who worry that if they have a case in the legal system, that the system isn't fair, or they may not be able to get a fair shake if they are minorities, if they're Hispanics?
Well, one of the reasons that I ran for district judge initially was because in my years of practice, and I practiced for almost 22 years before I became a judge, I had many clients who felt, and I couldn't say that it was unjustified, that the outcome of cases were dependent upon who you knew, what judge your case was assigned to, or whether you had a deep pocket. And none of those should ever be considerations for any judge in rendering a decision. Judges should not be picking favorites. The job of the court is to take the facts of a case and fairly apply them to the law. And, you know, when we pick a jury, we admonish a jury that everyone is equal in the eyes of the law. Whether they're rich or poor, whether they're a business or an individual, doesn't matter what their race is. And judges need to follow that rule as well, too. Every decision should be based on the facts and the law and nothing else. And everyone should be given the opportunity to adequately present their case to the court. You know, one of the issues, and you're correct earlier when you said that the number of Hispanic people that are coming before the court have increased over the 18 years I've been here. And one of the things that we initially had problems with was we felt that people were being taken advantage of because unscrupulous people were holding themselves out as interpreters that could help them navigate the system. And we found out that they were coming to court with them, charging them money. They weren't lawyers. And so we are very, especially in my court, we do not allow anyone to serve as an interpreter in a legal proceeding unless they are appointed through our office, which we vet all of those interpreters, and they are paid, you know, by the court. They cannot charge individuals for that opportunity. So, you know, we have taken efforts and will continue to take efforts to make sure that because of a language barrier, someone is not taken advantage of. When we have individuals who are in criminal court, if their attorney, their appointed attorney, does not speak the language, we make sure that an interpreter is there to interpret, not necessarily just when they're before the court, but also when they are trying to communicate with their attorney. So, you know, those efforts have been made and will continue to be made because obviously if we want equal access to justice, everyone needs to understand what's happening in the proceedings and to have the ability to do that through an interpreter if English is not their first language.
Okay. One more question that we'd like to ask of candidates for office, and that is there a situation that you can think of where you took a controversial or an unconventional position while in political life or even as an attorney that it was a decision you had to make that was unpopular, that demonstrates something about your character or your makeup that you think would help voters understand a little more about you, where you took an unpopular position because you felt like it was the right thing to do, even though it was unpopular?
Well, I think that anyone who is familiar with my career in the 3 parishes that I've served knows that I don't make decisions based on popularity or public opinion. I make decisions based on what the law and the evidence requires. And, you know, I don't think that's being particularly courageous. That's doing what your job is. I think that people who make decisions because they think it's going to make them popular or get them reelected are not doing their job. And so there is no instance where I think anybody can point to me making a decision because of public opinion or pressure. You know, people look at your record as a whole, and I say this, and I mean this sincerely. I have oftentimes had to rule against people that I really like or that I really felt sympathetic toward. But the role of the judge is not to pick favorites, and so that is what keeps people having faith in the system, knowing that you're going to make a decision based on the law and the evidence, and not something that you think is going to make you more popular or get you reelected, or going to boost you among a certain group of people. As I said, justice is not justice if it's not equal, and that's why judges have to be at all times willing to make the tough calls, regardless of what the consequences may be, if that's what the law requires.
Okay. Well, Judge, that's it for the questions I have for you. Would you like to add anything else before we conclude this interview?
No, I want to thank you, and I do want to encourage people to vote. Sometimes people think their votes don't matter. Every vote matters, and everyone should use their voice to make it clear what type of people they want in leadership positions. And I feel very honored for every vote that I receive, and I know that every vote that I receive is somebody giving me their trust, and I will never violate the trust of the voters. I will always follow the law, and I will always be fair. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today.
I'm grateful to you for your time, and best of luck to you in this race and all your future endeavors. Thank you so much. This is Attorney John Redmann, and everyone remember to get out and vote. The election is November 8th, and you can also absentee vote up until, the absentee voting I think is good until...
Early voting starts this coming Tuesday on the 25th. And goes through the 1st of November. And by the way, my ballot number is 64.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you, and everyone, remember to vote. That's the end of the interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you.